Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello guys, how are you? I'm Alyaa Hilmianti. Now, here I will discuss about what is language. First, what is language? Language is a system that relates sounds and gesture. The position of language, perhaps more any other attribute, distinguishes humans from other animals. To understand our humanity, one must understand the nature of language that makes us human. According to the philosophy expressed in the myth and religions of many peoples, a newborn child is akin to a thing, no child become a human being. According to this tradition, we all become human because we all know at least one language. But what does it mean to know a language? There is a linguistic knowledge. Now, a language you can speak and be understood by others who know that language. This means you have the capacity to produce sounds that significant certain meanings and to understood or interpret the sounds produced by others. But language is much more than speech. And there are knowledge of sound system. Knowing a language means knowing what sound or scenes are in the language and what sounds are not. If you only speak English, for example, you may substitute an English sound for a non-English sound when pronouncing foreign words like French manage a choice. If you pronounce it as the French do, you are using sounds outside the English sound system. French people speaking English often pronounce words like this and that is if they were spelled this and that. The English sound represented by the initial letters th in this word is not part of the French sound system, and the French mispronunciation reveals the speaker's unconscious knowledge of this fact. Knowing the sound system of language includes more than knowing the inventory of sound. It means also knowing which sound may start a word and follow each other. And there are knowledge of words. And there are the creativity of linguistic knowledge. Knowledge of a language language enables you to combine sounds to form words to form phrase, and of sentences and non-sentences. To memorize and store an infinite set of sentences would require an infinite storage capacity. However, the brain is finite, and even if it were not, we could not store novel sentences, which are well novel. When you learn a language, you must learn something finite. Your vocabulary is finite, however large it may be, and that can be stored. If sentences were formed simply by placing one word after another in any order, then a language could be defined simply as a set of words. But you can see that knowledge of words is not enough by examining the following strings of words. And rules are part of the grammar. There is a descriptive grammar. Is the unconscious linguistic knowledge or capacity of its speakers. And next, there is a prescriptive grammar. Means what your grammar is supposed to be, word order, the correct way to say something. In prescriptive grammar, such as laws are different from the descriptive grammar we have been discussing. Their goal is not to describe the rules people know, but to tell them what rules they should follow. The Great British Prime Minister Winston Churchill is credited with this response to the rule against ending a sentence with a preposition. This is the sort of nonsense up which I will not put. The development of grammar. Linguistic theory is concerned not only with describing the knowledge that an adult speaker has of his or her language, but also with explaining how that knowledge is acquired. All normal children acquire at least one language in relatively short period with apparent ease. They do not despite the fact that parents and other caregivers do not provide them with any specific language instruction. Indeed, it is often remarked that children seem to pick up language just from hearing it spoken around them. Children are language learning virtuosos, whether a child is male or female, from a rich family or disadvantaged one, grows up on a farm in the city, attends daycare, has some care, knowing this factor fundamentally affect the way language develops. For example, all children go through a babbling stage. Their babblers gradually give way to words, which then combine into simple sentences. When children first begin to produce sentences, certain elements may be missing. For example, the English-speaking 2-year-old might say, "Katie built house" instead of "Katie is building the house." On the other side of the word, a Swahili speaking child will say "Buzi kula majan," which translates as "God eat grass," and which also lacks many required elements. They pass through other linguistic stages on their way to adult-like competence, and by about age 5, children speak a language that is almost indistinguishable from the language of the adults around them.
I will describe about language universal and animal language. The first I will describe about language universal. Language universal is a pattern that occurs systematically across natural language, potentially through 4 of them. For example, all language have noun and verb, or if a language is spoken, it has consonant and vowel. Those rules representing the universal properties that all languages share constitute a universal grammar. The linguistic attempt to uncover the laws of particular language and also the laws that pertain to all language. The universal laws are of particular interest because they give us a window into the working of the human mind in this cognitive domain. Jadi maksud dari language universal itu bahasa itu bersifat universal. Semua bahasa yang digunakan oleh manusia mempunyai tata bahasa dan pola norma. Baik itu bahasa Arab, misalnya bahasa Inggris, bahasa Prancis, dalam setiap kalimatnya itu mempunyai subjek, verb, objek. Itu dinamakan bahwa bahasa itu universal. Misalkan kita orang Indonesia mau mempelajari bahasa Inggris, berarti kita harus mempelajari tata bahasa Inggris. The development of grammar. Linguistic theory is concerned not only with describing the knowledge that an adult speaker has of his or her language, but also with explaining how that knowledge is acquired. From children can acquire any language. They are exposed to with comparable ease English, Dutch, French, Japanese, and even though each of these languages has its own particular characteristic. Children learn them all in very much in the same way. Sign language. Evident for the innate needs of language, the sign language of deaf communities provides some of the best evidence to support the notion that humans are born with the ability to acquire language. Jadi dengan adanya komunitas tunarungu, terbukti bahwa manusia itu memiliki kemampuan berbahasa untuk berbicara. Meskipun mereka tidak bisa berbicara, tidak bisa melihat, dan tidak bisa mendengar, mereka tetap bisa berkomunikasi dengan menciptakan bahasa isyarat. Itu terbukti bahwa kognitif manusia memiliki kemampuan berbahasa untuk berkomunikasi. Next, about animal language. Besides humans, animals also have the language to communicate, to receive message and convey message. But animal can talk like human to express the meaning. The way communicates animal, that is by gesture or sign language. Tidak hanya manusia yang memiliki kemampuan berbahasa untuk berkomunikasi, tetapi hewan juga memiliki cara untuk berkomunikasi dengan hewan lainnya. Cara hewan berkomunikasi itu menggunakan isyarat atau gestur tubuh. Juga cara berkomunikasi hewan sangat terbatas, contohnya kayak mereka dalam bahaya atau mereka dalam mencari makan. Tetapi ada beberapa hewan yang memiliki kemampuan meniru berbicara layaknya manusia, like parrot. When we teach parrot to talk hello or goodbye, the parrot will imitate it.
Okay guys, I am Eki Husni Muzakki, and in this occasion I'm going to explain to you two topics. The first topic is the origin of language, and the second topic is language and thought. So let's start to the first topic is the origin of language. The origin of language. All religions and mythologies contain stories originating from languages. The stories about theories about the divine origin. The theories about the divine origin, language as a human invention, and development of evolution have all been put forward. The story of linguistics shows that the spoken language of the type that exists today has existed for at least tens of thousands of years, but the written record described earlier is only nearly 6,000 years old. Despite the difficulty of finding scientific evidence, speculation about the origin of language has provided valuable insight into the nature and development of language, which prompted the linguist Denmark Otto Jespersen to state that linguistic science cannot hold forever, to ask about where and about when to where from linguistic evolution. A brief look at some of these speculative ideas will reveal this point. The first idea is divine gift. So language is language origin from divine gift. According to Judeo-Christian belief, one God gave Adam the power to name all things. Similar beliefs are found throughout the world. According to Egyptians, the creator of the speech was the god of thought, Thoth. And the Babylonians believed that the language giver was the god of Nabu, or Nabu. Plato also argues that in ancient times a legislator gave true and natural names to all, and these words echoed an essence of their meaning. Confidence in the origin of the divine language is related to the supernatural attributes that have been linked to the spoken words. In many religions, only special language can be used in prayers and rituals, such as Latin in Catholic Church for centuries. Although myths, customs, and superstitions do not tell us much about the origin of language, they tell us about the importance ascribed to language. There is no way to prove or refute the origin of the divine language, just as one cannot scientifically argue for or oppose the existence of the gods, like that. Yeah, it's all about the divine gift. Yeah. And next is the origin of language by the first language. For thousands of years, scientific experiments have reportedly been designed to verify certain theories of the first language. Egyptian Parametheus or Fir'aun, shall we say, Fir'aun, sought to determine the most primitive language by selecting two babies in a mountain hut, to be cared for by a mute servant, in the belief that their first word would be in the original language. But they do not. History is full of similar stories, but as we saw in the introduction, all experiments in children are very cruel and completely worthless. It's not worth it. Yeah. Almost all theories of language origin, however ridiculous and superstitious, contain the implicit belief that all languages originated from a single source. Theories of the origin of monogenetic languages. Yeah, it's all about the first language, the origin of language as the first language. Yeah, and second idea is the language origin from human in does the language origin from human invention or the cries of nature? Yeah. The idea that earliest forms of language were imitation or echoes were proposed until the 20th century. The parallel view states that language initially consisted of emotional ejaculation from pain, fear, surprise, pleasure, anger, and so on. The French philosopher Jean-Jacques Rousseau, I don't know how to say this, proposed that the earliest manifestation of language was the cry of nature. Another hypothesis states that language arises from grunts of male and female rhythm as an expressive need, as an expressive need rather than a communicative need. Language most likely involved with the human species. Evolutionary biologists and neuroscientists support this view and the view that from the beginning human animals were genetically equipped to study language. That's all about the ideas of the origin of languages. And then the next topic is about language and thought. And this explanation leads to the proof. To the proof of the theory of Sapir-Whorf. Language will he stated that language will influence the way we think or see the world around us. The strongest form of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is called linguistic determinism. Linguistic determinism. In this view, language acts like a filter to reality. What's most famous in supporting linguistic determinism is that the Hopi Indians do not regard time in the same way as speakers of European language, because Hopi language does not make grammatical differences. A weaker form of the hypothesis is linguistic relativism, which says that different languages encode different categories, and therefore different language speakers think about the world in different ways. For example, language breaks up the color spectrum at different points. In Navajo, blue and green are one word. Russian has different words for dark blue and light blue, whereas in English we need to use additional words, dark and light, to express differences. Yeah. The Zuni Indian language does not distinguish between yellow and orange. Yeah. The language show the linguistic differences in lexicon, and the grammar is certain. The question is to what extent, if any, such differences determine or influence the thought and perception of the speaker. The Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is controversial, but it is clear that the strong form of this hypothesis is wrong. People suppose that perception are not determined by their words and language structure. Many specific claims of linguistic determinism have been proven wrong. For example, the Hopi language might not have words and ending words for certain tenses, but the language has other expressions for time, including words for days of the week, parts of days, yesterday and tomorrow, phases of the moon, seasons, etc. The Hopi people use various types of cylinders and various devices to keep time based on the sundial. Obviously, they have a sophisticated concept of time, even though there is no tense system in the language. Anthropologists have shown that the Inuit has no word for snow. In English, about a dozen, including hail, blizzard, mud, and busyness. But even if that happens, this will not show that language conditions the Inuit expression of the world, but that experience with a certain word creates a need for certain words. This study shows that our perception and thought are not determined by the words or the final words of our language. But what about the linguistic structure that we usually use? Could this be a strong determinant? In a recent study, psychologist Susan Goldin Meadow and colleagues asked whether the order of words from a particular language affected the way the speaker described an event non-verbally, either by movement or by picture. Their results show that all speakers, regardless of their language, use the same order in non-verbal tasks. The dominant movement sequence is actor, action, and object. So the movement sequence is actor, and then action, and then object. And the same results are found in the task of ordering images. Similar results have been observed between English and Greek speakers. These languages differ in how the verb codes the motions. When describing movements, English speakers will generally use verbs that focus on ways of motion, such as sliding, skipping, and walking. Greek speakers, on the other hand, use verbs that focus on direction of movement, as in approach and ascending. In our understanding of the world, we certainly do not depend on whatever language we speak, as Whorf Sapir suggested. However, we might ask whether the language we use affects our cognition. And then, actually, it is still too early to arrive at definite conclusion. The result of this study and similar studies seem to support a weak version of linguistic relativism. The version of linguistic relativism. This study supports this version. Persons as Orwell with regard to how language can be used For social control, he is more carefully with respect to the relationship between language and thought. He was carefully to qualify his understanding with the praise, at least as far as the mind relies on words. Current research shows that language does not determine how we think and understand the world. Like that. So about the language and thought, we want to prove the theory of Sapir-Whorf that language determine in how we think and understand the world. Yeah, it appears that this theory is still weak. Yeah, still weak by any studies that that present in this explanation. We can get the conclusion that the theories of Sapir-Whorf that language determine how we think and understand the world is still weak. Yeah, still weak. So guys, that's all my explanation about the origin of language and language of thought. I hope you got the point. Yeah, you got the point, and you can understand what we explained. We have explained. And then thank you for your kind attention, and we are sorry for any mistake that maybe we have done, something like that. I hope you guys understand, and please give us question if you get something need to ask about this materials. Yeah. Okay, thank you. We are from group 7. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.